Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we have an Omega run for you guys. So, of course, that's going to be catching up on everything from the polls from the previous week and then getting into some of the backlogs. 10 books to review for today. But before we jump into that, I was looking on social media. And I don't really use TikTok too often. I'm more of an Instagram guy myself, but I do post, of course, for the shows just to make sure that we have, content going wherever the audience is and trying to find it, basically. And so there is this one guy that I came across that seemed super interesting to me. And I wish I would have seen this sooner, but I think anyone in their hobbies, right? You're basically going to start off as a complete and total noob, and you kind of learn things along the way. And so I just wanted to give this guy a quick shout out because I've been stewing on this a lot. So it's this guy, 40 Cows is his name. And he's like, 5 things I wish I knew, when getting into comic books. And so a couple of them resonated with me. A couple of them are just not so much for me personally, but I could definitely see how they could be either an issue or concern, for a new comic book collector. And so the first one here was follow creators and not characters, which I found super interesting and enlightening. And I kind of knew this to a certain extent, right? It really depends on the writer or the author for that particular book and the creative team around it. That's really going to help shape what that book is going to be like, right? So, for example, if it's like Hickman, if it's Rom V, if it's Tom King, right? Some of the GOATs, of course, it's going to be something good if those are, writers that you're into. And then same goes for certain art styles that you're into, one versus the other, right? Peach Momoko always comes to mind. If you're into her art style, you know what you're going to get. If you're not, then you also know what you're going to get, right? So it makes perfect sense there. But now for me, I'm like, okay, maybe I should make more of a focus on that. If it's a character I haven't heard of, but it's a particular writer, maybe I should focus in. And then art style as well. Just things to think about. I think at this stage I do that, but maybe you need to focus on it, a little bit more. So that was one piece. The next 3, not so much for me, but I could see it. So comics are built to be addictive. So check books before buying, right? Nowadays you have like Marvel Unlimited, which is basically, a subscription platform that you could go on. Books will come onto those, 4 months, maybe 5 months after their release. You can just read through those and decide whether or not you actually want to pick them up. Now the books are as accessible as possible, especially these days. If you've been in this game for a while, right? A lot of this stuff is relatively new. So, 2000s and 90s, even, and before that, right? You had to go to the actual shop and pick it up and see if you were into it or not. And sometimes you're just really guessing. Maybe you're just going up and down the aisles and then just like trying to read stuff while you had the manager or the owner just staring you down. But you don't really have to deal with that these days. And so I found that, an interesting point. I think for me, I am just willing to kind of risk it because I don't 100% know what I'm into these days. I'm starting to develop a little bit of a style, and then there are things that resonate with me a little bit more than others, but still I like exploring different things, so it's not necessarily fully locked into that. The next point, he said, don't buy books just for the cover. And his point was more around all the variants that come out. So think of a number 1, especially, big 3 on the DC side, or you have an MCU Avenger that starts a new book. You have a whole bunch of different variants that come out with it, right? So you'll have like A through J sometimes on variant covers. And I can definitely see folks falling into the trap of buying multiple of those covers. For me, I actually don't fall into this. I usually like cover A unless some of the other ones are like, in particular, like really, really good. But I haven't fallen into the trap of like, I need all these different covers. It hasn't been for me, but I can certainly see for other folks that is very difficult because these covers look incredible, even on, pretty bad books. His 4th one was then read what you enjoy, not what's hot, and basically read different genres. Obviously, you have the superhero stuff. The big 3 from a publisher perspective are going to obviously be your Marvel, your DC, and your Image, and then you throw Dark Horse in there as well. But for me, I actually find I lean more towards the Image stuff anyways, so no concern there, and I don't just like kind of read the standard stuff anyways. It is more some of the random stuff, and I like finding that, the kind of diamond in the rough. But this last one is the one that I am struggling with the most, and the one that had me thinking and still thinking to this moment. I must have seen this TikTok, I don't know, 3-4 days ago, and I'm still thinking about it. Don't be afraid to drop a book you're not enjoying. And that is where I'm struggling. And part of it is being the completionist. You want to see everything to its end and just see how the story is going to go. Maybe it'll pick back up. I think a perfect example of that is The Hive, which the first issue was really atrocious. It was really bad. But as you read through it and then you have the full picture, it's like actually a pretty good story when you have the full 4 parts there, right? Then you take that in comparison with like Rat City is the one that I keep thinking about. It had a perfect ending. I think it was around like issue 13 or 14, and I thought it was going to end there. I was like, this is great. And then it decided to just keep going and then bring something back up that was from earlier in like issue 1 or issue 2. And now we're going to start on that vein of the story. And I'm like, it could have ended there. And that's one where I'm like, I should have just ended it, but just didn't have the gumption to do so, right? And so I think I need to work on that a little bit more. But the other part of it is I do this show, right? So not everything can be stellar at the same time. I do want to get a nice breadth of different books that we're talking about as well. So, you factor all those things in together, and it's like, okay, well, you kind of do need some of these maybe bummer books or books that you go out on a limb of like, I'm going to buy this and just see how it is, or just it's some exploratory thing. It's a creator you haven't been into before. It's a character you haven't read before. It's a combination of all those things. So it's something that I'm still trying to think about and think through. I have mentioned on other shows, I'm looking at paring things down because we're at the point now where the polls are anywhere from like 15 plus, which I really want to be in the range of like 12 to 15 and then maybe a little bit lower. This week in particular is like 23, which is way too much. So this could be kind of the wake-up call of like, all right, you've been feeling this, you're trying to pare it down, and then on top of that, it's not quite rolling off the way that you thought it should, so maybe now is like, all right, let's just cut it off right now and then, slowly start adding new things as new previews come in. So that's the one for me. Let me know in the comments which one you guys struggle with. I know it's probably a bit of each one of the 5 depending on where you're at in your journey or, where you're at as far as disposable income, right? These things cheap for just a 1 or 2 books, but then you start piling it up and it adds up very, very quickly, right? So be interested to see where you guys are at. So wanted to start the issue with that, just a fun little topic to think about and something I've certainly been thinking about a lot. But with that, let's just go ahead and jump into our reviews. And again, we have 10 books here. You can see we have the new guides already up here. Let's just go through them real quick. As a reminder, for all these books, I review them and then I spoil the heck out of every single one. So if you're not into spoilers, this is not going to be the podcast for you in any way, shape, or form. So just kind of bear that in mind. So as we go through, I will talk basically where the story's at this far, what happened in this book, what my thoughts and opinions are, and where things are headed from here. And then we'll show off the art a little bit as well. So if that's something that like thanks but no thanks, I totally understand. But if you're here for the ride, appreciate you watching and listening. So in this order, we'll review them. First, we have The New Gods, number 6, Rom V. Then Cyberpunk, Psycho Squad. This is 404, so the final issue for this little mini-series here. Then Robo Wolf, number 1, from Dark Horse. Then Doom Academy, number 4. Nullhunter, number 8. Hulk and Doctor Strange, this is just a number 1, but they're all just kind of one-shots. And then we get into the backlogs here. So we have Dazzler, number 3. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, number 3. Batman, the Brave and the Bold, number 9. And then last but not least is going to be Miles Morales Spider-Man, number 15. So those are going to be the 10 books that we look at for today in that order. We'll start off with the New Gods. And with the New Gods, it's funny, I read it today, and I already posted my my highlights for the week, and so usually what I'll do is pick up the books, we'll read through as much as we can for the week, and then anything else that either I didn't wrap up will end up on the Omega, or it could be a backlog for whatever reason, and I'll come up with the highlights. So this is the cover of the week, this is the interior art of the week, this is the bummer of the week, this is the story of the week, and then last but not least is the comic of the week, right? Something that just kind of encapsulates everything. And some things can be redundant. And so I already did all that, but I didn't read the New Gods. And then I'm flipping through the first couple pages of the art, and I was like, dang, this art is actually pretty good. I may have screwed up here and jumped the gun on the interior art. I actually went with Absolute Flash, so keeping it in the DC universe, but I'll show that off here. It was actually pretty good. So let's go ahead and flip over to League itself here. New Gods, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.4. And I could see it certainly on the art side of things. I really cannot see it from the story side for this particular issue. So as we talk about this one here, we have a story that's taking place in the All-In arc or story or event that's taking place, right? So Darkseid is our big bad. And the New Gods are basically that level. They are a god level and cosmic level characters that have been introduced. Basically, the head god, he has sent his mightiest warrior Orion to Earth to fight this. It looks like it's a child, but it's some sort of weapon that a prophecy is that it's going to kill him. Meanwhile, there's a big battle that's taking place where these gods reside called New Genesis, and that has since fallen. We had one of the speedster gods who died, and the story picks up from there. So in this issue, that speedster god has died, and then this god here is basically the god of death. And now that the speedster died, this god is basically going to either rule over him, preside over him, whatever you want to call it. The thing that I don't like about the writing is it's very biblical in the way that it's written. It's very and doth he came down, and no one shall escape from my plane of mortal existence, thus therefore blah 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 blah. And it's all this exposition, and it's where are we going? I can barely understand it, and I'm rereading stuff 3 or 4 times, and I'm still not understanding the text here. It's almost like King James version of reading the text, and it's really confusing. So any understanding that I have of this book is really just a guess at this point, and I'm trying to use the art as context clues, and I don't fully understand. But it seems like the god that died was somehow able to escape and looks like he's heading back into the real world some way, somehow, is my guess. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is these gods, now that New Genesis has fallen, they've now fled and head to Earth, where the child is, where Orion is, and I guess that's basically their last haven. And so as they're heading there, their ship is crash landing onto Earth. Superman revealed himself in the previous issue. Now we see the entire Justice League is there as well. You have Wonder Woman. I actually didn't see Batman there, but you do have Green Arrow. You had Green Lantern. They're all trying to stop this ship from crashing to the ground. And that's basically the full of the story. So yeah, from a story perspective, I think this was actually a miss for me, but from an art perspective, I totally get it. This art is phenomenal. So let's go ahead and flip into that. So especially these first couple pages here, right? Look at this as far as the color, and it's almost a water art, but sketch style as well. Right? Come on, look at that. It's almost like a Peach Momoko, but not quite. Certainly from a coloring perspective, but not actually from the drawing of the actual characters themselves. So I'm looking through this, and I'm man, I might have really screwed up on some of the interior art, or what I said was my interior art. So this is basically describing either under this mortal plane, or not mortal plane, but just plane of death and existence, and this is the god that oversees it, and they can't necessarily escape it until at the end. Then somehow he does. So yeah, that's the best that I can do for you guys. But then we get further into the issue here, and then here's where New Genesis is basically crash landing, and they're trying to prevent it from hitting the Earth here. So overall, it's a interesting story, interesting series, but for this issue, it's a miss, I will say. Is it the time to jump in? I don't think so. We're way too far in to understand what's all happening here. Try to find a trade at this point once it all comes out in one piece. I'll also say it's not necessarily lining up with what is happening in the only other Unlimited that I'm reading right now is Justice League. So I'm not sure about some of the other books. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I'm just not seeing the tie-ins as of right now. But the first couple of issues I've really enjoyed. The art is really good. This one, I was confused. It's a miss for me, unfortunately. So that's the New Gods number 6. I gave it a 4. Lee gave that one a 4.4. Next up here we have is Cyberpunk 2077 Psycho Squad. And so for this book, I gave it a 4, I want to say. I sure did. Lee gave it a 4.4. And this one is very good. Obviously, don't jump into this one since it's number 4. But the book overall here is a really nice ending to this crazy, crazy story. So this book takes place in the Cyberpunk universe. If you've played the video game, it is exactly the world that CG Projekt Red is built off of, which is all based on an original tabletop is where Cyberpunk originally comes from, like a pen and paper style game. And this one is really does follow and is true to what Cyberpunk is, like just a very dark and dismal universe overall. And so this book thus far, the best way to describe it is we have this Psycho Squad, and they are part of a group called Max Tech. And so if you played the video game, you already know. But in this universe, tech is heavily integrated into society. People will swap out different parts of themselves for tech very quickly, and it's like, almost like swapping out a handbag or a purse or shoes, any sort of accessory. But, they're enhancements on your body, right? So you switch out things that'll be for like your hands or your legs or your eyes, or you'll enhance your brain, whatever the case may be, to make you better at whatever it is that you're trying to do. People will just do it aesthetically, so on and so forth. But if you do this too much, if you modify yourself too much with all these different, technologies and things, you can go into cyberpsychosis, which is basically you lose your mind, and it always ends in some sort of crazy, violent way. A lot of the implants and things are like military grade, so you end up being like a killing machine. And so when that happens and you have a cyber psycho on the loose, they call in Max Tech to basically go in and clean it up. A good comparison is like this is calling in the SWAT team, basically, if you had that type of situation here in our society today. So this story follows this Psycho Squad, the Max Tech group. We have a lieutenant that was promoted in the first issue, but you can tell that she's kind of crazy and like goes over the top. There's a lot of collateral damage specifically tied to her squad and specifically her, and it seems like she was basically a borderline cyber psycho, but they brought her in and thought that she would actually be a pretty good headhunter to go after the actual psychos. We have 2 existing members in the squad that see this, recognize it, and they basically want to stop her. So one is just kind of a regular dude, but like has a moral compass. The other one is a cyber psycho that's reformed, and he's like the first and really only one in this case that has gone over the edge to cyber psycho. They brought him in and arrested him, removed all the stuff, and they actually rehabilitated him, and now he's working for the squad, which is interesting. So that's his angle. And it's actually kind of controversial out there. Is like, is this even possible to be done? But he's in a walking example. But as far as, common knowledge, it's not really, that's like taboo. And there's no way once you go over the edge, it's done. You're a psycho. It is what it is. And there's no bringing you back. But he's an example of someone who can. So the 4th issue, we have an incident where they're at some sort of, almost like an Alcoholics Anonymous is the way that it's basically set up, but it's like for cyber psychos that have gone over the edge, how do they come back? And suddenly it's just a whole bunch of people just hanging out, and this speedster just runs in and just starts killing a whole bunch of them. And we're like, oh boy, here we go. It's an event. They got to call in Max Tech. They do. And when they call in Max Tech and they find out who the cyber psycho is, because he's a speedster and he stops for a second, it's actually a kid. And so everyone's like, whoa, especially the 2, the reformed and the other, guy with the moral compass, are like, we're not doing anything here. But the lieutenant is like, hey, this is the target. I'm going after it. So she goes to shoot the kid. And the one with the compass is like, nope, we're not doing this, and stops her. So, of course, the lieutenant gets pissed off, puts him on, like, administrative leave, and gets to the point where she fires him. He's gone off the squad. And so the reformed one, he's still there, and he's talking to the guy. He's like, hey, I saw what was going to happen. We both know what type of crazy person that she is. This had to be done. I'm glad, we didn't have another senseless death. So, and he's like, hey, just keep this in mind. So they're doing some research on this kid. come to find out that they do basically like a facial recognition. It looked like it was a relative that was actually at this meeting who's alive, was there. And so like, okay, let's go to his place and like investigate what's going on. And then they basically find out that it's that speedster's dad is who was at this meeting. And so now they all arrive, and the dad is like all pissed off and terrified, and he's like holding a gun. He shoots at two of the Max Tech officers. One is the lieutenant, the other is just another random one. So now we just have our reformed psycho who's like going in, and now they're talking back and forth. Basically come to realize that the kid was actually experimented on from the dad. Dad used to play sports. The kid wasn't as good at sports, so he did some sort of experimental drug onto the kid, which then pushed him into the cyberpsychosis. In this psychosis, not only did what happened at the AA meeting, apparently when he came home, his mom told him he had to take a bath. He ended up killing his mom as well. So the mom's dead, kid's up in this room, dad's like losing his mind too with a shotgun and already shot two officers. Very, very bad day, bad situation for everyone. So the reformed lieutenant, he goes up to the stairs, and basically he gets to the point where he sees the father there and goes around the corner, shoots at him, gets the father on the ground. And now he goes up into the bedroom where he sees the kid. And the moral compass guy actually showed up. He's like, you guys forget, I'm really good at tracking, and I tracked that you guys were going to go after the kid, so I knew where the kid was too. Scoops up the kid, who I guess is passed out, probably from like burning up all this energy, turns his back on the guy and starts walking out. And he says to the reform guy, he's like, you're not going to kill me after all the stuff that we've been through together, and we know that this is all screwed up. And then sure enough, the reform guy shoots the guy in the back, kills him, and kills the kid as well. Lieutenant's all happy. Lieutenant was shot, but is actually okay. The other Max Tech guy is completely dead, and it's like just wraps up another terrible story here in Night City in this Cyberpunk universe. So it's crazy. Crazy story. I really enjoyed this one, start to finish. All these issues are good. I feel like all the Cyberpunk stories, this is the third one I've read. Certainly second, but I think the third one. Yeah, third. Yeah, because I can remember the other one. First one was so-so. There was elements that were good, but there are elements that were bad. Second one was awesome. This third one has been awesome. I recommend them. If you like the video game, you're going to like the book, I would imagine. All of them have been good for me, though. So, again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.4. I guess what didn't push it over the edge is, like, maybe it was a little predictable in the end. And then also, the way it was wrapped up was, like, done really, really quickly. I could have used maybe a little bit more pacing out on this. But we'll go into the art real quick. Show it on the art cam here. And ultra violent, so keep that in mind if you're a little queasy. But really good art, really graphic, great detail here. And it feels like I'm playing the game a little bit, like I'm reading a story that's from the game, which feels like, you know, that's how it should be. So that's Cyberpunk 2077 Psycho Squad. Highly recommend. Like I said before, it's number 4. Don't get this, the trade. Wait for that until it comes out. But if you're interested, it's a good story. And it has nothing to do with the game. It's just placed in the actual universe. So it just plays along those rules, and all the names, you know, kind of line up to the names that are in the game, so on and so forth. So we'll go to our next one here, which is Robo Wolf. This one I literally just picked up because of the cover, right? So here I am, not following the advice of the TikToker. But this book was awesome. So I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.4. And I'll just go ahead and just jump right into it. This is the comic of the episode. So incredibly good. Really enjoy it. From the art to the story. It's a bunch of satire, basically. As you can see from the colors, a lot of 80s influence in this one. And basically, we have just a crazy over-the-top heist style story here. So we got Robo Wolf. He's got a whole bunch of his comrades with him. The skeleton guy is like a drug addict. This guy's like a naive hacker, and then this one's like kind of like a mercenary, badass assassin type lady. And Robo Wolf is a father, and he's been ignoring his daughter by just going off and doing all these crimes. And for whatever reason, he needs $1 million to, I guess, basically buy his daughter's love. There comes a point where his daughter is like, Robo Wolf, like, Dad, can you please just hang out with me? And like, he's just ignoring her the whole time. And like, he hears this commercial in the background, and it's like, your daughter will love you if you buy this thing. And she's telling him directly, here's what I want. But all he can think of is like, well, no, I got to shower her with toys and like, you know, all this other stuff in order to get her affection. She says it like directly to him. So it's like that over the top style of stuff. But the entire book, as you can see on the cover here, is the art is that way all the way throughout, which makes it incredible. So I was literally laughing out loud reading this book, just having a good time. It seems like each issue is going to be one of the four's mess that we have to go and clean up. So the heist is taking place. Now we got to go ahead and split up the funds. But on the way to splitting up the funds, now we stopped off at Skeleton Guy's here to pay off a debt. Turns out he owed a lot more than he claimed that he owed. Ends up being a big old firefight. They do get out of there just barely. And now we're going on to like whatever the next person is to clean up whatever issue that they have going on as well. So I think it's just going to be a 4-parter for this one. But it's good. It's a lot of fun. It's a number one. Obviously jumping at this point. So let's go into the art here. Like I said, everything is like kind of that 80s style. A lot of saturation. A lot of neon colors as well, which is really cool. And I like the text too. It just kind of like gets to the point. There's not a huge text bubbles here. So this is him talking with his daughter basically here, coming home. And they have this whole conversation of, I wish you didn't work so much. And he's showing on TV, your daughter will absolutely love you if you buy this thing. So it's stuff like that. But yeah, it's a great, great, great book. And I'm just really interested to see where it all heads from here. I will say very adult in its content, so be warned on that. But it is Dark Horse, you know what to expect. You know, Image will kind of go to that level as well. But yeah, comic of the week. Most excited for when the next one comes out. Excellent stuff. Highly, highly recommend. So that's Robo Wolf. Then we go into Marvel, Doom Academy number 4. This book here is just very simplistic. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.7. I can totally and completely understand why League was a lot lower than this. I mean, you could have wrapped up the whole story in like 4 pages. You didn't need the full, however many it says here, 32 pages for this book, to be honest. So to catch you up on where we are for this one, we have Zoe, who is part of the original Doom Academy. All these students are now in Latveria at Doom's Wizarding Academy because he is the Sorcerer Supreme and leader of basically all of Earth. And Zoe was pulled into this magical book. Come to find out, this missing student, Greta, was in this book as well. In the last issue, they were both trying to fight their way out. At first, you know, viewed each other as combatants and enemies. Then they came to work and team together. And the other students then realized that she was pulled into this book. They pulled her out with a spell. That's Zoe, that is, but they left Greta in there. And Zoe's like, we got to go back in. So that's the story of where we're at right here. And this whole issue is, how do we get Greta out? And so they're like, okay, we just need a couple of items that she is connected to her. And how we pulled out Zoe is how we'll pull out Greta. They all decide to jump into the book. And when they do, they find Greta pretty easily. There are a couple of other monsters in this fairy tale. They fight them off really quickly. They then pull Greta out. They pull everyone else out. But as they do that, they pull all the monsters out with them. And that's basically the book. Pretty quick and simple from a story perspective. But the art is good. I like the continuation. It's an easy to read, good to follow along. It's just predictable. And you know, the 5th one I'm sure is going to be the last one. It's just a big fight against all these monsters and send them all back in. I can basically already tell you that. It's likely how all this is going to end. But yeah, Doom Academy number 4. If we go into some of the artwork here, pretty good overall. I think it's classic Marvel. Nothing too crazy over the top that you're going to see here. even when they get back into kind of the fairy tale. But I do enjoy the characters. It's going to be more of like your teenage drama that you kind of run into here. But even still, I think it's well done. It's just simplistic. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that's Doom Academy number 4. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. I'd say at number 4, it's probably worth just waiting until the end. And you probably don't need this one unless you're specifically looking for these characters. There are other books that would be better suited if you're either tight on a budget, you're not looking to really explore. It's not a must read by any stretch of the imagination. So with that being said, let's now flip over to Nullhunter, number 8. League gave this one a 4.1. I gave it a 3.5. And I think the reason for me is I thought we were heading a totally different direction, and then we kind of snapped back to Adventure of the Week. So at first, basically you have this guy Clay. He's a tortured soul, a weapon used by this big corporation that basically owns the galaxy. And he's forced to go on all these different errands in order to earn his freedom. He was caught in this crazy situation where he has these bionic arms from the war, came back from the war, and had like a PTSD moment. And when that happened, he thought he was back in the war, and he ends up like trying to like bear hug a soldier. Turns out it was his wife and kid, and killed them. And so then he was put into jail. This corporation that he used to work for came to him and was like, hey, we know it wasn't you. Your stuff malfunctioned. We can get you out of here. But in order to do so, you got to work for us. And Clay's like, you know what? I have nothing else to live for. If we're going to punish whoever did this, I'll do what it takes. But by doing that, now he's remembering why he hates this company in the first place. And they just have him doing the most crazy, grueling, beating him down to the bone type of missions, and they just kill you like morally of like, what is all this universe come to? So this one is kind of along those lines as well, except in the previous issue it looked like we were finally at the Olympus level, and we worked our way all the way back after doing all these crazy odd jobs that were just so heartbreaking, that now we were going to fight in like kind of the main conflict and work our way towards killing or destroying or defeating Olympus. But this snaps us right on back. So we have just kind of a scenario of the day, if you will. So this young boy here, who he saved in issue 2, is going around saying that Clay has been captured and kidnapped by a group of bandits, is probably the best way to describe him. And he's trying to hire a whole bunch of mercenaries, but he doesn't have any money, so all the mercenaries are just blowing him off. So as he leaves the bar, some ladies overhear him, and they're mercs as well. And they kind of feel bad for the guy because they know of this group of bandits. Either they've had issues with them in the past, or they've been victims of them in the past, and they just feel for the kid. So like, hey, we'll help you out because we hate that group of bandits as well. Got to come up with a plan. They think of, here's how we're going to go and infiltrate. They identify where he's at. Sure enough, the bandits are there, and then they engage them. And at first it looks like the plan's going to go well. Clay's freed and they're good to go. But then, of course, more reinforcements then show up. And literally all of the women that help him, they all die except for one. Clay and the boy, they do survive. So it's basically a suicide mission. None of them got paid. And they all just did it because they felt bad for the kid. And now there's only one to tell the tale. And she didn't even want payment anyway. She just did it because they absolutely hate these bandits. And it seemed like they were, either orphans or grew up through the orphanage. And like they didn't have anything else really to live for either. So now it's Clay and this boy are now, I guess, going to work their way back to Olympus. Which is fine, but like the ordering of this issue seems off compared to the previous one. Because it already seemed like, okay, we got through all of the hell stuff. So now we understand that this company, an organization called Olympus, is bad. So now we're going to go after it. And now we're like still back into that, okay, we're going after them again. So it's just a big step back, which is weird. So that's why I went with the 3.5 instead of the 4. On the art side, it's very good. Nullhunter's been good, very graphic, over the top. Everything takes place in kind of a futuristic, very similar to Cyberpunk in that way, actually. Just a different rule set here. So let's flip over then to the artwork here. And these are going to be a lot of darker tones and hues for the most part, at least from like a saturation standpoint. You can see you have some whites here overall, but mostly it's been darker kind of throughout the books, and this one kind of hangs on with that theme as well. So it's been a good series thus far, but then you do have time to time where it's like this issue didn't move anything forward, or okay, we're still doing like these one-offs that these characters aren't going to necessarily carry over, and then this is finally the ones where I was like, maybe this series isn't as good as I thought it was. So this is going to go all the way, I think, till 12. It doesn't say it here, but I think it goes till issue 12 or on issue 8. Not the time to jump in, of course. Wait for the trades. First beginning part of the series, really enjoyed. At this stage, I'm not entirely confident they're going to be able to land this thing, but we're just going to have to wait and see, to be honest. So that's Nullhunter number 8. Again, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave that a 4.1. Next up here we have is Hulk and Doctor Strange, and this is a bunch of like those random pairing one-offs that League has been doing. So this is the second to last one, or third to last one. Because we have Galactus and Ghost Rider next, and then we have Spider-Man and the Sinister 16 after this. So 2 more after. This one I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.8. Again, another theme of another Marvel book that's a very simplistic storyline, and almost to the point of like, this didn't need to happen. You didn't need these two. They didn't really complement one another. It was mostly a Hulk story. So it's just kind of weird. It is a one-shot, so you can jump in, obviously. None of these one-shots are all connected in some broader narrative either. They're truly just one-offs. So we have Hulk. He's as Bruce. He goes to Doctor Strange. He's like, I got a question for you. Me as the gamma radiation, I specifically bring out the Hulk. But there are other gamma beings in our Marvel universe that do not bring out a Hulk, a pissed-off monster. Right, so think of She-Hulk. There are a couple others that he references throughout here. Just trying to remember off the top of my head which ones they are. So you have She-Hulk. I think there's like Abomination in here, and a couple others that you see like listed out down here. And he's like, you'd think it's specifically the gamma radiation that makes all these monsters. But then there's like She-Hulk, as an example, actually just makes her better at what she does. So it seems like it's more or less that the gamma radiation intensifies whatever type of emotion that you have deep within you. At least that's the conclusion that Bruce is getting to. So Strange is like, okay, so you want me to help you basically try to figure that out. And Bruce is like, yeah. So Strange is like, okay, I'll send you back to when you first got the gamma radiation. And so in this origin, it's basically a science experiment that they ran. They were going to run some sort of test. This kid was driving through the test field out in the middle of the desert. So Bruce went out there. They shot off the test experiment by mistake. And then Bruce actually saved the guy by pushing him into like the safe zone or into like this trench area. And then Bruce took the radiation blast. And he basically realizes that the anger comes from is he was pissed off the fact that they were going to lose this innocent life for no reason. And he's fighting and pissed off about the loss of this innocent life. So that's like the fire that burns within. And so that he comes to that realization. Strange said that that's not a bad thing. He has something very similar as well. As you know, Strange for his origin as well, when he breaks his hands and then he gets the magical powers, and the reason behind it is a lot of it is based on anger and not understanding why can't he fix this, so on and so forth. So it's, that's basically it. Just coming to that realization as to, is he bad? Is there a monster inside? But it's like, no, it comes from a passionate place of trying to save lives. That's it. That's the story. So I was like, okay, I would have preferred like they go on some weird adventure rather than like, let's dig into our feelings. They're okay from time to time, and I've mentioned that on shows, but I feel like I'm getting more and more of those. And I would have much preferred like, we're going out, we're smashing something, we're doing some Hulk stuff. But I guess that's kind of the point too. It's like, okay, it's not, these one-offs are not supposed to be what these characters are typically doing. It's something totally different, which is different than what Bruce normally does. But at the same time, it also is a big theme throughout the books. Hulk goes and smashes something. Then we have, segments of Bruce of like the inner conflict between the two. So it is kind of like this duality constantly. So I don't know. One could argue that this is actually a pretty common theme for Hulk books as well. So I don't know. For me, it was a skip. But again, it is a one-off. If you just want to read a quick story, go for it. That is Hulk Doctor Strange #1. I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave that a 3.8. Next up here. Sorry. Let's go back to that real quick. Because I didn't show off the arts. How dare I? Art here is pretty good. So I was showing some of the beginning art, but let's show off a little bit more, shall we? So awesome full spread that you have here. I think the art, again, is very standard Marvel. Very similar as far as the coloring and the drawing of Doom Academy in particular. And then at the end you get this little Aunt May and Agatha little story here, which is fine. I mean, it's basically like, hey, this portal opened, let's stop it. And then they stop it. Then the end. So let's go to Dazzler here, shall we? Dazzler #3. I gave this a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.3. This is a weak book. It is a skip. It's not bad enough where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But as I was reading it, I was like, this is between either a 3 or a 3.5, to be honest. Here, the two characters, Dazzler on the right, Leela Cheney on the left. Last issue, we have Dazzler. She's doing an interview in the UK. She's under the influence of a mind-controlling mutant. Come to realize someone's out there trying to sabotage her and make mutants look bad, right? She's a mutant, but she's also a rock star diva. And this is a time, as always, where a bunch of people are hating mutants and have different feelings about them. So the fact that she's a mutant is hurting her records, hurting the concert, hurting the safety of the concert goers, so on and so forth. So they need this all to be going smoothly without a hitch. But constantly there are all these issues. So the UK was this interview, and being mind controlled, she shot off a whole bunch of her Dazzler like sparkles, similar to Jubilee, which got some people hurt, and they saw this live on TV, thought it was an attack. First issue was during a concert. There were some attacks as well, and then it was revealed that she had some mutants working with them, so people were uneasy about that. This third issue, Leela Cheney showed up at the end of the second one, and now they're all in this like safe space trying to figure out what we all do from here. There are some concerts in cities that have been canceled, others that they projected very low sales because people are afraid for their own safety. So whatever reason, Leela Cheney is like, okay, well, let's take your mind off this Dazzler. Let's just go to Tokyo and have some fun. And Domino, the head of security, is like, I don't think that's a good idea. And I'm like, nonsense, we'll be fine. And so they head out and they do that. They shouldn't have done that. They're gallivanting in Tokyo, eating a whole bunch of food, going to shows, riding around in go-karts and stuff, having a good time. As this happens, Arcadium, who's like the head of the Murder Worlds, he's a villain. And I've read some of the Murder Worlds. Those are actually some of the first comics that I ever read. 2023, I want to say. Maybe 22. But so the Murder Worlds guy sees them on the streets, and he basically runs these reality shows and just puts a whole bunch of people, and it's Hunger Games style. They kill each other until one's standing. So he sees them out there, and he has a whole bunch of his goons go after, and they basically film it to go and attack. So of course they're going throughout Tokyo, destroying the whole thing. The authorities are well aware, and you're thinking in the back of the head, like, just, we knew this was all going to happen. Why did you go out and do this? Like, you should have just stayed at home. But of course, they keep going and fighting. And finally, Domino and the rest of her squad, they show up and they get Dazzler and Cheney out of there. Now Tokyo's all pissed off. They don't want to host the concert. And they have to then go to Manipur, which is like a made-up Marvel city where a whole bunch of mutants are, and play a concert there. And then they're going to play another concert in New York City. And the last like 4 or 5 pages of them just singing on stage. Just not the greatest book, unfortunately. So obvious as to like there was going to be a problem. The little story that you had with Arcadium and the Murder World was fine, but I'm like, what are we doing here? And then the song at the end was like not great either. Saving grace is that the art is good. It's not bad, but the story itself is just pretty meh. So I'd say, kind of more of a simplistic style, but you do have some of these, panelings that are overlapping one another, which is nice. but from a story perspective, this isn't it. This just is not it. So this would be an example of one of like, I would drop this, right? But there's only 4. This is a backlog, and it's already done. So I already have number 4 that's in the pile, and we'll get to it eventually. But for sure, I would have just dropped this one. So I don't recommend, I mean, if you really just need like a fix, then maybe you pick it up, but you can skip it in my opinion. So next up, continuing on the backlogs here, we have Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver number 3. And this one, I think I gave it a 4. I sure did. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this issue is good. You definitely need to read the other ones before reading this one, I'd say. But basically for this story, we have Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver. They are obviously twins. And then you have Speed, who's on the cover of this as well, which is their nephew. And so Speed is a speedster just like Quicksilver. He goes and he helps out Pietro defeat a whole bunch of these clones. The story of this one all starts with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver working together to stop this ship that was falling from the atmosphere. As they do that, a package was delivered, and it's left from Magneto. Scarlet Witch reads it, and as she reads it, she's like, oh my gosh, this is going to hurt Pietro, and I'm just going to burn this letter and not let him read it. Starts a big old fight. Pietro runs off, Quicksilver, and then they run into this gang of a whole bunch of clones. Wanda is fighting what's called the Wizard, this guy, and realize that he's in charge of the clones as well, and they're going after Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch because they are prophesized basically to destroy the world and destroy the universe. They're 2 powers together. Like, if they're amplified together, it'll lead to catastrophe. So, this issue, Speed helps out Quicksilver defeat a whole bunch of these clones in the background here. And Wanda, after her fight with Wizard, is now with Vision, trying to understand what exactly is going on and needs his help. So after defeating a whole bunch of these guys, Quicksilver then heads back over to Wanda, and Speed is out of the picture. So it's Vision, Wanda, and Quicksilver just talking over what to do next. And they're like, okay, it's a whole bunch of clones and drones, so there's a whole bunch of power that needs to be manufactured somewhere. And Vision just does some quick research and is like, okay, there's a spot in the Caribbean. This is likely where it is. They all head over there, and it's basically a factory that's like underground, and the water kind of keeps it cold, which is pretty cool. I think that would actually make a lot of sense from a manufacturing standpoint of being able to produce something. But yeah, so that's what they do. So they all head down there and they just start destroying it. But as they do that, Wizard then shows up, and he's bringing his whole like full force with him, and then setting up the big fight towards the end. So mostly a setup issue for when this closes out in issue number 4. If we flip over to the art, I'd say nothing too crazy here. The reason I picked up this book was more or less because I wanted to keep Scarlet Witch. And then this is, I think, a really good example of, follow the creator and not the character. So this book there's a Scarlet Witch in 2023. Then you have this, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And then you have Scarlet Witch again in 2024. And then that just wrapped up. So I have all those. Those are all backlogs. And then you have now Scarlet Witch and Vision, which is the next group. And I think for each and every single one of those books, it's all the same group. So if you read one, you've basically kind of read them all. And they're good. They're not bad by any stretch. But, the writing style is very similar. So each week to week, you're going to get the same flow, the same cadence, the same style of art. So I was like, okay, once I already read 23, which was like 10 or 12 issues, now I'm reading this one. I'll have a whole nother one. I don't now need to also read the Scarlet Witch and Vision. I think we can be off of it and be totally completely fine. So if you're interested, the trade is probably already out or going to be coming out. Just do the trade. But if you want something more current, they have a run that's going on right now that's specifically just Wanda and Vision. That might be interesting for you to pick that up. But either way, it's good. So if these characters you're interested in, go for it. So that is Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, number 3. Then we got 2 more here. We have Batman the Brave and the Bold, number 9. This is our anthology series. I gave this one a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And I always need my notes for this anthology because it's like 4 different stories that we talk about here. So the nice thing about this one, and what carries it, as has carried it in the past for Batman the Brave and the Bold, is the Batman the Winning Card is back for this one. So that is the series where you have, just making sure I have my tabs up, where you have Joker Year 1 versus Batman, and Tom King is writing this one. So this is part 4, and looks to be the conclusion of this as well. So now the rest of them I'm like not as looking forward to, because this was like the best story that they had going on that they would mix in. But you have Batman, after being injured, he decides to go back out on the streets and patrol, and he's going after Joker, and his clues lead him to the forest. He finds Joker out there, and he goes to fight him, but he's super injured still, barely recovered after a couple of weeks of his last encounter with him, and he gets a couple of good punches in, but then Joker has a knife, stabs Batman in the chest. So he stabs him in the chest. Batman's already weak. This is Year 1, so he's not as skilled, and he faints. He faints in the middle of the forest, and then he comes to. And when he comes to, the Joker is just sitting there staring at him. So we don't know how long Joker was staring at Batman, but it was like hours is what we assume. And so Batman gets up, and he starts fighting Joker, and he gets him to the point where he incapacitates him, and he's able to arrest him. So now Bruce is like, why the hell didn't he kill me, right? He killed a whole bunch of these other people, and it was like a dozen or so, because Batman was like repeating their names as he was punching him. But he didn't kill Batman. And then this is where you have the whole conversation of, it's Year 1, right? So they're just meeting the yin and the yang of the two, right? They're both crazy psychos, but in their different ways, right? Crazy for the justice, and then crazy just for the sake of being crazy. And so basically coming to that realization, that discovery that they kind of like need each other in this weird sadistic way. So, and that's the conclusion of it. Really good. All 4 of those parts for the winning card. I'd love it if they would just pull that out and just only have that as a book and the trade, the 4 parts of the winning card, and then I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Pretty dark and twisted and a fun ride. So that's the one part. The next is Wild Dog. This is part 3. This is basically low-level vigilante in some random Midwest town. He's got this big supervillain that's coming to the town, and he's basically trying to figure out, like, how am I going to stop him? In the previous part, he got his ass handed to him pretty handedly, and now he's, like, licking his wounds. He's thinking about getting out of town. He used to be a big football star. He heads to the stadium to say goodbye to, like, a friend, but there's a big game going on. So as he says goodbye, Gizmo then shows up with his goons, and they're, have the whole stadium on lockdown, wants the school to pay him a whole bunch of money. And so Mad Dog decides, okay, there's like these smoke grenades that they were going to use for like the football team when they were coming out for like the entrances. It's like, all right, I'm going to throw those. And Gizmo put up this big like force field dome around it, so all the smoke stays in there. And he takes out the goons one by one until he gets to Gizmo, takes out Gizmo. He's the big hero, saves the day. And that basically ends that. So, good story there. Then we have Aquaman Communion Part 3. Similar thing here. Aquaman is working with the gorillas, like the intelligent ones, so not Grodd, but this is a different one, Konar. They were working on some sort of science experiment to try to figure out why they're intelligent, where they came from. Accidentally summoned some aliens. Those aliens are now going to go to the gorilla island and attack. And this whole lab was underwater. That's why Aquaman is involved. Aquaman then shows up at the Grill Island. First, they start attacking him, but then, explains the whole situation. They agree they'll go help and support. Konar is back in the lab area, and he's able to free the gorillas, but he dies, unfortunately, as he's trying to free them. And Aquaman and the gorillas from the island, they come in and they save the day. So one of our side characters didn't make it out, but the other gorillas then make it out. Everything's all happy, hunky-dory. And then we have the last one, which is a weird one, and it's always like a weird short story. This is Nor is the Batman. And basically it's explaining that like Batman isn't as cool as he thinks he is, and basically shows Gordon, he's up on the roof and he's like looking out, bat signal, and he's pretending not to see Batman as he climbs up to the side of the building, and then he just does that thing where he just shows up and then Gordon like pretends to be surprised, and then does that thing where they're talking and then Gordon's just talking and then Batman's gone, but he could actually see the cable where he's like dropping down. And it's trying to explain that, he's not perfect, but he does a lot of good. So we need to all play the part and make him see as though he's as scary in like this ethos that is Batman to begin with. And I was like, this is bullshit. I do not like that in any way, shape, or form. Why would that be a good book? That's terrible. Like, that was so bad. I didn't like it at all. And I didn't like it from like, it's not well done. It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's not my Batman. I don't rock for that. I don't think that he's like, okay, here's Batman being all crazy. We gotta just let him be crazy. Otherwise he's gonna freak out. So just let him think that, he's this mastermind detective. Where'd he go? Oh, I don't know where Batman went. Like, and we just have to pretend. It's like, that's stupid. No, pass. Absolutely not. So that was the end of that one. But yeah, so that's Batman Brave and the Bold. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. So let's flip over now that I got my notes done and out of the way. Let's go to the comic cam so I can show you the art. Art's been really good in Brave and the Bold overall, but it's just some of these stories have been hit or miss, which is just so unfortunate. So we got the first part there, then we have Mad Dog here, and him taking people out. Then we have the Aquaman series. And then in black and white here is the Norris Batman, right? So let's see, where is it? Bat signal, obviously going up there. And then here it is here. So Gordon, what does he say here? He says, oh, here we go. Like pretending like he doesn't see him. Up on the other side, crawls up and down, and then pops up right here. And like Gordon's like pretending as though he like didn't see him. And then the same thing basically happens here as they're talking. He turns around, doesn't see him, but he actually does see the grappling hook like clearly right there. And I'm like, no, stop it. Absolutely ridiculous. Stop that. No. Why would you do that? That's so dumb. So yeah, anyways, that one obviously irks me and triggers me, but the other ones are good. The other ones are good. So then we got our last one here. So it is Miles Morales Spider-Man number 15. I gave this a 4. I'm pretty sure I sure did. Lee gave it a 3.9. So as you can see from the cover here, this is Gang Wars. We're in the middle of it. I think we got one more after this, maybe another. I think it's just one more. And straight continuation from what we did previously in Gang Wars. So we have the Cape Killers, which is like a group that is put together by Agent Gao, and she's kind of after Miles, right? So we have this whole ordinance where vigilantes are not allowed to be going out there and fighting crime, and if they are, they have to be like under a strict supervision. And so that Miles basically falls into that. So he's got Scorpion and Gus, and they are basically keeping an eye on Miles as they go out and fight. But they run into some goons, and one of them being Prowler, which is Miles' like actual real life uncle. And they already put aside their differences before. So like, Prowler, why are you effectively relapsing here and like fighting crime again? So we tried to figure that out last issue. This issue is revealed. So Prowler brought a bunch of other goons with him. He's working actually for Hobgoblin, and he needed Miles to take out those goons. So those goons are now gone, and then Prowler reveals, hey, I was actually just needed you to take care of that. I'm actually tailing Hobgoblin and seeing what he's after, and I needed your help and support. So I'm not a bad guy. Let's go after him. I know where his lair is. I know where these weapons are coming from, and we can now go in and take him out. So Miles was like, okay, cool. Glad that you're not actually a bad guy. Let's go after them. Miss Marvel has also helped as well. We have Shift, who's like Miles' like clone brother from like a totally different series. He's helping out. We have Gus, we have Scorpion, and they're all going to Hobgoblin's place. But Hobgoblin has kind of an ace up his sleeve. He's working with Rabble. If you remember, Rabble was like from earlier in this run, who Miles was fighting, I don't know, issues like 4 through 8. And turns out she's back. And so now that she's back and working with Hobgoblin, they basically ambush this whole crew as they arrive. And the next issue is basically setting up the big fight. Good guys versus Hobgoblin and Rabble. So, yeah, should be good. Decent little issue. Art in this is always really, really good. Let's go ahead and show that off. I love what they do with Miles. It's just very action focused, right? Everything seems like it's just an action scene. Even things that are just kind of like just regular text. Also really love the paneling and the overlapping that they do here. And overall, the creative art style of this is really, really good and really well done. Saturation level is also really good too, which I find makes the book that much more enjoyable. So yeah, Miles Morales has been kicking butt. I'm glad I'm still on this one. This would be another one where it's like I could see myself dropping off. I think we're on 33 right now, which is a lot, right? So, and I'm only at 15. But it's amazing. And for each one of these Omegas, I tried to throw in a Miles because I know I'm so far behind. I tried to do like 2, maybe 3 X-Men as well because I'm so far behind on just so much X-Men between the one I just read. We have regular X-Men. We have Uncanny, Exceptional, Mystique, Magic, you name it. Storm is another one. So there's just a bunch to get through on that part as well. But, we're getting through it slowly but surely. These Omegas help out tremendously, right? If we just reviewed, I think half of them were Omegas on this one, or at least 4 of them. So you just kind of keep it up at this pace and we'll keep it going. So I was actually, because it's so early in the week, I was like, man, maybe I might be able to get through another one, but I'm not going to push myself too much. But what I am going to do is start reading some more of the backlogs. So maybe I can set myself up ready to go for 2 Omegas for next week. So that's a thought. It helped out with the wrestling. We had one show that's already done from Sunday, and then there's another one that I could probably knock out pretty quickly, which then frees up more time for books and, kind of so on and so forth. But anyways, I'm saying all that stuff because we're at the end of the show here. If you could not tell. But before we close out here, let's go through the books one more time so you have them all. Put it on the big camera here so you can see it. So we had New Gods number 6. Cyberpunk 2077 Psycho Squad number 4. Robo Wolf number 1. That was our comic of the episode. Doom Academy number 4. Nullhunter number 8. Hulk and Doctor Strange number 1. Just a one-shot there. Dazzler number 3. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver number 3. Batman the Brave and the Bold number 9. And then we had Miles Morales Spider-Man 15. So that will wrap it up for a show. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. If you want to follow along, let me go ahead and pull up my notes because we have socials all over the place and the SEO is not the greatest. So for emails, saturdaymorningcbreview@gmail.com. All this stuff is going to be in the descriptions on the YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. But if you want to email me, that is the place to go. If you have tips, tricks, things you want to see differently, things you would like me to add, take away, how I can improve upon the show, just let me know. Send out an email. Happy to respond and open this up, make it a dialogue. Doing it A for myself and then B for the fans as well, right? So I find this to be a really nice creative outlet, but if it's not entertaining, I'm just screaming into the void, I'd like to make some adjustments, so just let me know there. On Instagram, it is Saturday Morning Comic Review. We'll do the highlights. We'll do polls of the weeks. I usually have a little flash of here are the books that are going to be on the episodes, other creative stuff like that. So that'll be on Instagram, TikTok as well. TikTok is The Helpful Bailiff. That was my little tag on Marvel Snap. So I just kind of kept with it because it seems to be something that's available on a bunch of socials. And then last but not least, the website that I use, a little database to keep everything stored, is League of Comic Geeks. I'm sure if you are into comics, you're very well aware, but if you want to follow me and the different books that I've been reading, you'll find me at Helpful Bailiff there as well. So that will wrap it up. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I appreciate it, everyone. And I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.